and welcome to chapter 23 of Bookish Babes After Dark. Today's episode is on Bookish Podcasts, and we have two lovely guests joining us. Would you like to quickly introduce yourselves before we carry on?
Yeah.
And just a bit about your podcast as well.
Okay.
Tell us.
Who do you want to go first, Sam? Me or you?
You take it away, B.
Okay. Hello, I'm B. I'm one half of a pod of Smut and Wingspan. I never say that right first time. I can never say it.
Never, by the way.
Thank you. Sam always says, if it's anything witty, it's always me that came up with it. Humble brag, but... I'm one half of pod of Smut and Wingspan. We are a bookish podcast who talk about all things romantasy. And yeah, we've been podcasting now since March of this year, so just 1 month before you guys. So we're still babies in this world. And yeah, so excited to be here.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm Sam. I'm the other half of a pod of Smut and Wingspan. Yeah, I've always been a reader. Like Bee's backstory is that she took a 10-year hiatus, but I've always read all my life lots and lots of different genres until Bee sort of hounded me into romantasy. I read one book and I haven't looked back. I haven't read any other genres since we started, and that was in July of last year.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
yeah.
July.
So I've done a year straight of fantasy without reading anything else.
That's pretty hardcore.
That's a dedication.
Yeah, and we started the podcast just because we were the only two people in our friendship group that were reading fantasy. When we tried to talk about smut, none of our friends were that interested. And we just sort of said to each other, there must be a demographic of people out there who've got nobody to talk to about their books. Let's just start something and see where it goes. And you know, be that person for somebody who doesn't have people to talk to about their books. Let's be their new book bestie. So that was like where the podcast started and has snowballed from ever since.
Oh, I love that.
That's really nice. That's like such a nice backstory. Whereas, like, you know, ours was just a fever dream.
And also, before we carry on, we must address the elephant in the room, which is the loss of one of our hosts.
Oh yeah, I was like,
what did we do?
Yeah, I was like, oh no.
The lovely Jord is actually unwell at the moment, so she's not able to join us for today, but she sends her love, and it feels like we've not got an arm missing.
She's here with us in spirit.
Jord and Ellie together, they are the fun, they are the humour of the podcast. I just kind of laugh along and look like I'm
What
funny.
Did I say the
Really
other week? We're the same person, but in a different font.
Yeah. They are literally, they call me Mum all the time.
Oh, that's
They say,
cute.
Mum wasn't around, she left us, and look what happened.
There was chaos in the group chat, and now she's got over 100 messages to read.
Yeah, I feel like
Chaos.
I feel like that's so interesting because that's what's slightly different to us is there's just the two of us, so there's only the push and pull, and like I feel like probably having watched you guys, I think I'm a bit more like Jordan, Ellie. Whereas Sam's a bit more like Eleanor, she's more of the responsible one. Whereas I'm the messy, like, scatterbrain. Like, I'm the messy, like, artistic, creative one. But, like, if you give me a spreadsheet with a number on, I will actually die. Whereas, like, I love you, Sam, but you will admit yourself, there's not a creative bone in your body.
No, couldn't draw a stick man.
No. But you love a number.
So similar to us.
Oh, I love numbers. I'm a numbers girly.
It sounds so similar to us. That's literally our dynamic. Like, and I don't even think people know, like our listeners even know, like who does what. But obviously, like I host in a thingy term because obviously we all chat. But obviously, like I start to ask the questions, stuff like that, and I basically plan. Other than that, everything else is Jordan Ellie. Everything that you see on socials, all the captions, everything is those two. Mm-hmm. They are the creative people. I will sometimes go like, oh, I think this looks good, or like, oh, can we have a bit of this on there? But like anything else, I'm just like, pfft. To be fair, I've got better since doing my own book talk and stuff. But I just don't have the creativity that they have, or the I don't know how to express it, so I just stick to the organisation and leave them to it.
Yeah.
So much easier.
We decided to get a joint bank account to like have like our like bookish expenses going out of, because we were just constantly sending each other money back and forth. I was like, somebody's gonna think we're money laundering if we keep doing this. So we set up an account together, and Beale just texts me like, "Ma'am, spent money on the account." I'm like, "Okay, don't worry." She's like, "Oh, money's gone." I'm like, "Okay, don't worry." And she's like, "Oh, we'll figure it out, won't we?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because I'll top it up. That's how it gets figured out." Like, where do you think our money comes from?
Yeah, like when we changed like our subscriptions recently to a new video editor, which you guys recommended, and Sam was like, "So we can't actually afford that with what we pay in at the moment." And I was like, just sign up and we'll figure it out. She's like, no, there's no figuring it out. Like, there is not enough money in that bank. And I'm like, yeah. Just like, let it go out and we'll deal with it after. And literally, like, you couldn't get two people more opposite. But I think, like you were saying, I think it's good having that balance, because you take different loads, whereas otherwise there's like too much weight on either end in that case.
I mean, that's completely.
So I think
like
it's
us.
good to have that.
I'm impulsive, so like it was the other day, we've got our shop and I was like, yes, we've had an order, so I'm just going to order this and this, and Ellie was like, just stop a second, this is how much money we've got, do we need it? And I'm like, but what if we put, and she's like, just come back a second. I'm like, thanks, Mum, I need that, because I would have just, I'm like, if I've got something in my brain, I'm like, I need to do it now. Like, that's what I need to do. I don't need to do anything else. I will hyper-focus on that task until it's done.
And I think, in a way, kind of like doing the podcast and like obviously our merch business, it's been a bit of like almost like eating a bit of humble pie, because you assume that everything's going to go like really well and you're going to blow up and everything's going to be fantastic, and then you're going to start making money and you're going to be able to do all this. And we're like, no, that's not happened at all. We've had about 5 orders.
We've had 11.
But we have all of these... We've had 11. There you go. But we have all of these ideas that we want to do, and there's so many things. And like, I love the fact that Ellie and George are just like, right, yeah, let's do this, this, and this. But I'm like, but we can't do it all, guys. So let's just like...
But she's
I'm
fine
like
when it comes to us enabling her buying books. Because we are enablers. Like, she's like, should I buy this?
If I really don't want to buy it, I won't ask you. Because I know if I ask, I will get to do it.
Well, I feel like we're these people. Sam is very savvy with money, like really like just only spend, like she does treat now and then, but like way more responsible with money, whereas like I am not. We were literally just on holidays in Crete together for a friend's wedding, and there was a stunning bookshop in Old Town in where we stayed, and they had like basically versions of books we don't have over here. So like the Crescent City series, there's not the paperback of the 3rd book. They had it there. We just spoke about this in the episode we just recorded with you guys, but how much you love Fourth Wing, Ellie. And they had the limited edition versions in Greek of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So they had they had the normal versions in English, but they had the sprayed edge limited edition versions in Greek. And they were pricey, right? They were like, what were they? £30 each, I think, something like that. And I was like, I want them. Sam was like, you didn't even like Iron Flame that much. You liked Fourth Wing, but you didn't even like Iron Flame. And it's in Greek. She was like, you don't speak Greek. And then I went back and bought them anyway.
See,
You just said
that would have been me.
They are stunning.
I would have seen it. I would have been like,
They are very pretty, but I was like, you're never going to read them. You've already read the books. You've got English versions. What do you need Greek versions for?
Yeah, see, this is something, and this is completely off topic for our episode. We'll get on to that.
we're good at tangents
later.
here. It's fine. Yeah.
We are very good at tangents, but Ellie and Jord read on their Kindles and buy trophy books that never get read. I really, 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 really struggle with that. If I buy a book, I need to read it, and it upsets me so much when it's just there and it hasn't been touched, and I feel like I need to read it. But I have to say, they've kind of brought me around to their way of thinking, and I may or may not have bought a trophy book the other day. But I'm not saying I'm a changed person.
Whereas, like, I am just I'll read it on my Kindle if I really, 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 really love it. I'll buy it, it'll go on my trophy shelf, and then I can display it, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, did you read that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, can I borrow it? No, that's sitting unread on my shelf.
Yeah, don't look. Yeah. All of my, like, I would say 90% of my bookshelf is a trophy purchase. I read pretty much most things on my Kindle, and then I'll go buy it, because I'm a messy bitch reader of a paperback. I crack spines, I dog ear, like, I'm messy. It gets folded, it gets absolutely wrecked. So I don't want to put that on my bookshelf, like, it doesn't look good. And then I'll go buy like a really nice sprayed edge.
Nice one.
Yeah, and then it just sits there.
So that makes sense. That
Okay.
does make
So,
sense.
like, 'cause, like,
I get that thought process.
So we did an episode, and I'd mentioned it in the episode that we've just recently recorded, That's the Glove by Jessie Hall, right? I've mentioned how many times I've read that book. I need to buy a new copy because the spine looks like a C.
It's just completely...
That is
I
how...
don't I don't even think that's... I think I probably might have worse ones.
I've got a worse one, look at that.
Oh, wow.
And, like,
Oh, yeah, that's a bad one. Yeah,
it's
yeah, that's
covered
bad.
in tabs. It's got, like, highlights on, like, every other page.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this is a well-loved and well-read book. However, they've brought out a
Do you know
special
what, though? I
edition,
think-
and it is glorious, and it's a hardback. So...
You need to have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And I
feel
never
like-
agree.
Sam, you say that's such a lie, because Sam, you're like, you'll read whatever you've got. So if you've got it in a hard copy, you read it. If it's Kindle, you just stick to Kindle. I don't think I've ever known you to buy a trophy book. Very few.
I bought the whole Tog series after I'd read it.
True, you did do that, actually.
And Crescent City. I read
You read
your
my-
Crescent City.
Oh, you read... Yeah, you
and
read
your
all
Tog.
mine, and then you buy Yeah, that's what Sam does. She reads mine, and then buys her own trophies, basically. She read my Tog.
That's a genius
I'm
idea.
just going to start coming around to Ellie's house and just going through her library at the moment, because, like,
Yeah.
you see that
It's 'cause
glorious
Tog
thing
was so
behind her.
expensive.
Throne of Glass is spenny, like,
Yeah,
no one's
so
got that.
expensive.
And if you don't end up liking it, it's a big purchase to do.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, and I think this is why I'm coming more towards that way of thinking, because I was in a book slump recently, and any book that I wanted to read, like, I genuinely wanted to read it, and then I got a third of the way in, and I was like, I don't want to read this anymore, and I just didn't want to pick up books, and I think I figured out that I've got so many physical books that I've not read, like, I think it's, like, over 100, and I was like, I really need to get through them, but I just don't want to, and I just want to read on my Kindle, and I think, like, eventually I will run out of space for books. I'm not going to have unlimited books. When I think about like, I've bought all of these in the past 2 years, since I started reading again in 2022. If I carry on at that rate of growth for the rest of my life, where are they going to go? Because there's a lot of them that I can't give up. So just think that I think I'm going to gradually come around to that way of thinking, but I think I'm only going to trophy buy 5-star reads.
Ooh.
I think that's how I can justify it to
That's
myself.
how I'm
because if
doing
I
it.
gave it 5 stars, I loved it enough to say I love that book. Because I give most of my books 4 stars because I'm pretty easy to please. If it's bad, like if I didn't really like it that much, I'll probably give it a 3. I don't really give them less. I'd give it a 4 if it was good. If it was absolutely excellent, I'll give it a 5, and that's how I'm probably going to go with it. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Anyway, we've gone completely off on
love
that.
a tangent.
I was just going to say, Eleanor, your bookshelf is such a vibe. I can't
Yeah,
stop
the
watching the lights
lights are so
changing. I'm like,
nice.
I'm waiting, like, oh, what's going to be next?
Green, red.
To be fair, this happens all the time. This one here has run out of battery.
Oh.
Really annoyed about it.
I
We'll just
need to get me some of those, because
I know, I love it.
pitch black and you can't... No,
My family did this room for me for my 30th birthday in July, so I've only had this since the start of August.
Oh, I love
They
that.
basically, yeah, I bought my house, and I absolutely hate my house because everything needs redecorating. Like, it's one of those houses where you go into it and you're like, it's all right for now, but I've lived in it for a year and just nothing is getting done because it's just so expensive. And they were like, what can we get you for your birthday? Like, we're thinking of taking you on holiday or blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, but your sister's like, but that's not Ellie. Ellie wants somewhere where she can sit and read and, like, she can, you know, film my videos and all that kind of thing. So they basically designed this room for me. But yeah, so I'm basically gonna trophy buy books. Sorry.
Yeah. I kind of done
So
the
just keep
opposite. Like I got bookshelves with like I owned 5 books and I bought like 7 bookshelves and was like, right, because then this is the goal, you know, to fill it. But mine wasn't for my
Yeah.
30th. Mine was just back in like January, and I just said to my husband like, I want like an office library, and he just was like, yeah, all right, if it keeps you quiet. And then I got
I love
it.
that.
But mine hasn't got cool lights on it though. It's just you can't even bloody see.
No, but they're really,
know.
I think they're just off Amazon. There's some lights at the front that you can't see up here, which can be voice activated. So when I talk, they flash. Honestly, this room is so cool. And funnily enough, this light is the most expensive thing in the room, including the bookshelves.
Oh wow.
Gosh.
I was like, what the hell? But yeah, honestly, it's like my little Zen safe
That's
space.
so nice.
So.
Sam's moving house at the end of the year, and I just know she's chomping at the bit to have her own.
A book room.
Yeah.
I love
Can't
it.
wait.
Right. We will now get into the questions we actually meant to ask you.
The mascot's back.
Sorry for the slight tangent.
He's-
Sorry, can I
It's
just
not even
can I just have a
slightly,
name, please, of the cat? I just need
He's
to know
called
his.
Samwise
Oh,
after Lord of the Rings. So
he's beautiful.
He is
we have little
gorgeous.
Samwise, who's
We do. He is actually a guest quite
Yeah.
regularly now.
he is. He's
He's
a
we love
mummy's
it. We
boy
love Sam.
through and through, and like my partner's away for work, so I can't even be like, go spend time with your dad.
Aw. I wish I could have my dogs in the room when we record, but that would end so badly.
David would be fine.
Not the other two.
No, but David
It would be fun.
would be fine.
No, they're so problematic.
So, this episode is about bookish podcasts. Now, obviously, we have our own podcasts, but interestingly, and I mentioned this when we finished filming for yours, I've never spoken to anybody else that has a podcast, and I mean, you guys probably have, but I think it's really interesting to kind of like learn about what it's like for other people, because again, you kind of learn things from each other, and also, just in case there's people out there that want to start a podcast, then, you know, we talk about why we do it and how we do it and things like that. So it's kind of initially how you met. So obviously we now know how you met, but like we mentioned that we met through TikTok. Well, technically, I'd say that's a very like slight. We each found a TikTok video that was like, do you want to join a book club? We all joined the book club, so we went straight over to WhatsApp. And then there was like 100 people in this book
There
club,
was more than
and
that.
there was like 1,000 messages. It was just ridiculous. Like, you could never ever really form like relationships in there. And then there was this, like, they were talking about a meetup in London. I was like, we're so far away from London, it'd be so expensive. I was like, why don't we do like almost like factions of this book club where, you know, all the different areas can come together. And so I created the Manchester Liverpool one. And then Jordan and Ellie joined along with some other girls. And then we kind of had our own book club. So from that point on, we kind of all immediately left the other one and just kind of stayed in our own. And there's about 7 or 8 of us
Yeah.
at the time. And then Ellie randomly just put into the group chat, like, I would love to start a podcast. And both me and Jordan were like, same. Thought nothing of it. And then literally, we had microphones within a few days. We
Yeah.
had socials all set up. We had a name. We had board meetings all sorted. Like, we just went straight in without even really knowing what we were doing. So essentially, that's how we met. But how did you two meet? And how did a pod of wings and pod of Smut and Wingspan come to fruition?
Well, so we were real life best friends for a really long time. So we've been besties since we met. I feel like we've always been very close since we met, didn't we? Like,
Yeah.
So Sam and I met in our real life day job. So I'm not. We live in Swansea in South Wales. That's where we are where we are. I'm not from Swansea, I'm from Cardiff, which is about an hour away, which is the capital city of Wales. And I moved to Swansea for university and basically never left. Started a new job after graduating, which was where we met. Sam started like a couple of months later. Sam's from Swansea. And yeah, we just hit it off all really straight away, because I was still like, I'd been to uni in Swansea, but all my uni friends left. I was the only one left. So I didn't really have like any friends in Swansea. Whereas Sam's from there. So like basically all of Sam's friends became my friends. So like Sam's school friendship group is Sam's school friendship group plus me now. I'm the added extra.
I love that.
I just basically were like, I'm friends with Sam and now you're all friends with me, tough. Like it's a, you know. So yeah, we were just normal life friends for a really long time. Literally, yeah, since 2017?
2018, I think I joined. Yeah.
2018. And then, yeah, like we kind of mentioned in our episode, but like I studied literature in university, always wanted to go into writing or something to do with literature, and then university completely burnt me out. I was like, I'm never touching a book ever again. I ended up in a completely different line of work. Sam had always been a reader, but we never like connected over that, did we really? Like we like a lot of the same things, but not reading was never something we connected over. Sam was a romance reader really, or a crime thriller. And then just after having my daughter in 2023, I just tripped and fell into romantasy and yeah, became obsessed. And then I did about 6 months of being the only one in my friend group that was obsessed with like book talk, like fully dived in, like Bookstagram, book talk, like all of it. But I was just a creeper. I wasn't like an engager. I just creeped and didn't, you know, talk to anyone. And I just was like, I need a friend. Like I need somebody to be in this with me, because I was so deep in it. Who's the one person that's most likely to get on board? And it was Sam. So I just nagged Sam enough. Because Sam's a Disney adult. So I just I gave it to Sam, which was Akata. I was like, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's not really, but I was like, you know, this was the sell. She caved and ended up reading all, at the time, 15 Sarah J Maas books in 31 days. Because she's upset. I know. That's so problematic, isn't it, when we give that figure. People's
Everyone's
faces
like,
are
did you work? And I'm like, yeah. If my boss is asking, yes, I worked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a fast reader, but wow.
She went big. She did. She went hard. And then...
You went all in.
She did, yeah. And that was in July of last year. And then basically Sam and I both had milestone birthdays recently that we will leave the number up to anyone to guess. Because
21!
We were 21. And we basically were just like, all we speak about these books, we're just so obsessed. That's all we talk about is books. But it was all... We would see each other, like we were still real life friends. But like we just would end up sending each other like 20-minute voice notes every day, all the time, about the books we were reading. Because Sam effectively read by TBR then, all the books that I'd read. And it was like, it got to the point where I was just like, one day I just said to her like, should we do a podcast? And she was like, no. Absolutely not. No way. There's nothing you can do to make me do that. Because although we both do come off as like confident people, we're both very anxious girlies. Like so self-conscious. We're very anxious, very like, yeah, self-conscious. So Sam was like, there's no way. No way am I doing that. And like, no chance. And then my thing was like, we've got milestone birthdays, like 30's the year for just saying like, fuck it. Like, let's just do it. Like, you know, we spend too much time worrying about what people think about us. We just need to do something for us. And then my other argument was like, a white man wouldn't stop and think twice about doing a podcast. Like there's plenty of white men out there who just talk about shit. I was like, why can't we to live our life with the confidence of a white man? And then eventually she just caved. But it was a very like reluctant start, wasn't it? Like we were nervous.
Oh my god, our first episode, we've since gone back and re-recorded our full first episode and like overwritten the audio that we first put out, because it's so like timid and almost like nervous. We come across nervous.
And we're not nervous people, but I remember thinking I was so like cocky about doing it. I was like, this is going to be class. And then we actually sat down and looked at each other and we were just like the words aren't coming. We can't. Just can't do this.
Yeah. It's so funny as well, because I feel like we're all quite anxious and kind of not that confident as well.
Yeah.
But weirdly, like for us, well, for me anyway, and I know the girls agree because we've spoken about it, but it doesn't feel like we're doing a podcast. It feels like we're just chatting as friends with each other. And I think that's why it feels okay. Like, that's why I'm so awkward and so anxious about starting the thing, because that's the first thing I'm doing, and I'm saying it to people, like I'm looking in the camera and saying welcome and whatever. But as soon as we start talking to each other, it's like we forget that we're filming the podcast. It's just like a conversation about the books.
I think like we've done it before, where sort of like we've ended an episode, but we've carried on talking, and I've just pressed record, and that's like where I've got like some of the best snippets from, because like I don't think Jord knew we were recording. I just pressed record, and it was like what were we talking about? It was we were talking about the fisting toy. And I don't know how we got onto it, but she started reading reviews of it off Love Honey, and it is like one of the best things that I've got. Like, just sat in a bank, and I'm like, I'm not gonna put it out, not yet anyway, but like it's just sat there, and we will just sort of go into it, and it's just us having a chat, and especially sort of now like remote filming and that type of thing. Like, I look forward to us recording, especially because, like, I'm not originally from Manchester. So, like, when I moved up here, I had no friends. I didn't know anyone. The only person that I knew was my partner. That's the only person that I knew. And then, sort of, like, I joined the book club, and I was like, oh my God, I've actually got my own friends. And then we all met up. And my partner was like, just be careful, you don't know who these people are. They're random people off the internet. What are you going to do? And I was like, I will club you with a hardback. That's what's going to happen. And that became our slogan of our book club. It was just clubbed by a hardback.
Love it.
And then ever since then, sort of like both Jordan and Ellie have become like my best mates. And like they're the people that I talk to on a regular basis. We might be on like
all day, every day,
the opposite sides of Manchester, and like I think whenever I come to like see you guys, it takes me like an hour and a half to get over there by train. But like we just have the best times when we're just sat talking and giggling and that type of thing. And I've noticed it more as well recently when we've sort of been doing our lives, because we started a book club, so like we started going live on TikTok and doing like reading sprints and stuff like that. We've become more comfortable being on camera, and I think it's definitely from doing the podcast, whereas like I'm an ex-theatre kid, so I'm used to it. And like in one of my old jobs, I used to be a presenter for like live shows for like bingo grannies. It was great. I had the best time. But I was like used to being on camera, and then sort of like going into filming, it was like, yeah, it's fine. It's just another day of the week type thing. Because like,
which for me, I just hate it. I hated it to start off with.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to get used to, isn't it? Like, we both were really like so full of blind confidence. Like, we just thought, oh, we're so good at this, and like. Especially with the episodes, like we thought we had to have like a template, right? We thought we had to be like, right, this is what we do. We're gonna like, you know, scene for scene, blow for blow, go through these books. And then actually that's what we were finding is like there was too much, because we kept forgetting, why are we doing this? Because we want to sit down as two friends who just love talking about books. And as soon as we, I think, and it probably has taken us a while, I'd only probably say in the last couple of maybe like good handful of episodes, when it's just, it doesn't matter if we don't cover every single thing in a book, like, because it doesn't, like, we're a spoiler podcast, so like generally people have read the books before they, you know, come to us to listen to the episode. So like, it doesn't matter if we don't talk about every single thing. Like, we're at our best when we almost like you said, just we don't pay attention to there being cameras, but it's a really hard thing to get used to, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Even though we're both, I think, on face value quite confident people, even we struggled with that, because it's weird. And especially I think like with the social media thing, like even now, like if our friends talk about our podcast, we're like don't talk about it. Nope. Like no, don't talk about us. No. Like yuck. Like don't, like we just pretend it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think in a way, like you expect to start something and then you expect it to go on the same trajectory that everybody else's that's got big has.
Mm-hmm.
And like actually it's really slow. I mean, I don't know how it's been for you guys and stuff like that, but really our podcast is relatively slow. Like in the grand scheme of things, I think we hit a milestone, was it today?
Yeah, today we got 100 followers on Spotify, and it was like I put it to the group chat and I was like, oh my god, guys, look.
But we still maybe only average 4 listens per episode.
Mm-hmm.
Do we care? No,
Mm-hmm.
because we do it for fun and we enjoy it, and it is what it is. If it doesn't blow up and it doesn't become the next big thing, then that's fine, because we're just enjoying ourselves, and we put as much effort into it as though it was like our full-time jobs. Like
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I was saying to be like, if it becomes a chore, like if we're not enjoying it anymore, then I don't want to do it anymore. Like it needs to just still feel fun. So like when we first started doing it, I got really bogged down with like the stats, didn't I? I'd look all the time, how many followers have we got, how many listeners have we got, how many this, and I was so obsessed with it, and I was like, I'm not enjoying it anymore. Like it's completely taken the fun out of it for me because I'm too obsessed. So now like we've really pulled it back and thought like, why are we doing this? Like we're doing it because we wanted to sit down and talk about books. So like that's become our main focus again. I feel like for me, I lost it a little bit.
Yeah, and we kind of like, ours kind of went a bit weird. So when we started it, we honestly couldn't have had any lower expectations. Like honestly, the fact that we had one listener that wasn't somebody that we made listen to our podcast was like insane, because we literally, I think our first episode we said like hi to our mums and that's it, because we never anticipated anybody giving a single shit about us. And then it kind of like, when we say did well, right, in the grand scheme of things, it did not do well. But, just for us, like, it was like, oh my gosh, 10 people listened and oh my God, like, this is everything. And then I think we were very fortunate in the beginning is that we did do very well on social media. And again, when we say do well, right, in the grand scheme of things, it was not. But in our heads, it was like we did really well very quickly on social media. And then like Sam said, we fell into this really quite like, it was quite a bad habit of like, oh my gosh, social media is the be all and end all now. Like, we need to push TikTok. We did what was it, like the 30-day challenge oh my God. And that like literally drove us, and we finished it and we both said like, let's never do that again. And then we kind of like really dialed it back, and we have in recent months, we've really reined it back in. But then actually, okay, maybe our numbers aren't like whatever, but then what we found is we've now got people finding us through different books that we do that are becoming friends, like really good friends now, and they're becoming really like consistent listeners. So instead of there being a lot of people that are a bit like, oh, they're all right, we listened once and we left, okay, we might only be finding like one person every month but they're becoming a lot more like, not die hard.
Loyal.
Loyal, that's the word. Yeah, like much more loyal. So die hard is like such a gross word to use.
Yeah, they engage more as well, which I
yes,
feel like makes our videos do better because they're commenting and liking them. Whereas before people would just, watch and scroll.
Yeah.
Now, like B said, we might only find one new person in a month, but that one person is commenting on things and liking things and direct messaging us about our episodes. So like they're a better listener, or they're a better follower than the 100 people who aren't engaging with us, aren't watching our videos.
Yeah.
So
over
quality
quantity. I don't even know our stats. I have no idea how many followers we have on either platform.
Because
it's so subjective though.
So like
I think as well sorry.
I was just gonna say, so I do social media for work. I'm a social media manager. So I love the stats and the number side of things. So like all the analytics, the impressions, the engagement, that type of thing. That's my like little like nerd part of my job. I absolutely love it. And then with us starting doing the podcast, I love seeing sort of like which does well, which doesn't, what times are best, and that type of thing. But with us now, we might only get a certain amount of listens per month, and we might only get 800 views on a video that we put on TikTok. However, we've now got a sort of like a community that's been built that now it's like, no, I think I prefer doing it this way instead of sort of like fighting and baiting for views. Whereas now it's just like, no, we're just going to do the stuff that we actually enjoy, and the people that are commenting, I know that they actually like our stuff and they're not just here for the sake of it. Like we had,
and now we've created that. So we've got a Discord for our community. We've got a book club. So every month, obviously, we're reading books for the podcast, and we put up a poll, and they can decide which one they want to read along with us. So we will then go live one night every week to read a quarter of the book along with everyone. And yes, okay, it's only a small community of people, but that means so much more to us than it would be if we got 10,000 views on a video and only one person listened from it. Like that, as much as, okay, yes, in the grand scheme of things it does matter, but really deep down, like I don't want to say I don't care, but I don't care about that. I care about the lovely people that we've met from it, and like doing those things with people, like that means more to me than anything ever would. But weirdly, we still organise the podcast and still pretend as though we've got like millions of followers. Like the effort, I don't say pretend, sorry, I mean the effort we put into it is the same effort we would put in if we were doing it as a job and we had loads of people listening. So yeah, I don't know, it's just a strange thing, but I think if you do it for the right reasons, i.e. the way that we do it and you guys do it, which is just because you want to do it, I think that is better than if you do it just because you want to be successful at something.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like, you know, you probably see, like, particularly being like with social media, and by no means am I saying like this is just from an idiot's knowledge of what I've learned with doing it so far, but like you might have a viral video, right? And this is no hate to any other podcast account, but like there's some podcast account that literally get gajillions of views, right, on social media. And like they might have a huge following that translates, right? But you might get like, you could get 200,000 views on a TikTok video, but it doesn't convert into podcast weekly listeners. That is like, I think sometimes you can get bogged down in, we're doing this for the podcast, not for the social media is a tool to aid the podcast. It's not the focus. And like the reality is it doesn't, like, you know, if you know, we've had a couple of videos that have done really well, right? We're really fortunate for that. They have done really well, but like those aren't the videos that then get us like all the down. It's not like, oh, we get 100,000 TikTok views, oh now we have all these listeners. Like it doesn't work like that. It's not, it's kind of like they're two different things. And like a really good example for us where I think it's probably I'd like to say we're proud of ourselves, but it wasn't intentional, and it was just a really good example of like with the Quicksilver episodes that we've just released. Like Quicksilver was a book that people that, when I say like our listeners, but like people who listen to us that we follow on social media were like banging on about Quicksilver. Everyone was reading it, and we were like, right, this is something that like people who follow us are really enjoying. We really value their opinions. Let's just read it. It wasn't like we just thought we'll just give it a go. We'll do an episode on it. And at the time, because we do like doing author interviews, as many that will let us do them. And we were like, whenever we reach out to authors, we never expect a reply. Like, we honestly don't. And we reached out to the author, and then Callie Hart was like, yeah, and really quickly, and was like, when are you releasing the episode? I'll do the next episode. And it was literally within like a couple of weeks, and we were like, oh my God. But like, we hadn't engaged with anybody directly about Quicksilver. It was just like, that's what people were talking about. And we just read it ourselves. It was completely like just us sat down, genuine, us just chatting shit about this book and how much we loved it. And like that now is by far, by head and shoulders above the others, our best episode we've ever released. And it only came out like 2 weeks ago. But I think because it was the one, when I say we tried the least hard at, but like, it's not that we didn't put effort into it, because we did, but it was the one where we were just the most just ourselves. We just were like,
it was so organic. It was such an organic, the way it all happened, the way the episodes flowed from one episode into the author interview, it was so organic. Like, and not that we didn't try hard, but we didn't try hard. Like, we just
loved that book. Yeah.
I think it's one of those as well. I think because Quicksilver was trending so much, especially when you sort of like you released your episodes, it was like every man and their dog was sort of talking about it. It's like we did the episode on Butcher and Blackbird the week that Leather and Lark got released
Yes.
and the week that everyone found out that it was being turned into a film. And then that episode got released, and I was like, it's almost like we planned it, but we didn't. It's just the way that we filmed them. And it worked out really well, and that's like one of our most listened to episodes now.
Mm-hmm.
So like because we are, I don't know how to say this, I feel like we're slightly chaotic as people, in that, you know, sometimes I have bad times where like I just can't even think about doing the podcast, and I think everybody probably has those times. When we're in a good place where, you know, because obviously we all work full time, like we have other things going on, like sometimes you can't just put all your effort into doing all the filming. We are so far filmed ahead, it is probably a joke and unnecessary. Like, so say for example, to give some kind of context for people, we are filming this on the 1st of September, and this episode will release on the 28th of September. Because we are, and we have not filmed a single thing in 3 weeks. So 3 weeks ago, we'd filmed up to the 21st of September. And in a way, it's sort of a detriment to us, because if we weren't planned and recorded so far ahead, we probably could respond to trends quicker. But I also think as well, we don't really massively read books that are trending at that moment. We read books that we want to read.
Yeah.
And I feel like,
and a lot of the time,
especially sort of with our podcast, with us doing sort of like darker romances and sort of like taboo books, we're very much a niche when it comes to it. Recently there was a load of hate on a book called Little Stranger by Lee Rivers. I absolutely love that book. We've done an episode on that book. I cannot wait for the next one. But she got so much hate because it's a taboo book. And I was like, damn, I really should release some clips from when we did Little Stranger. But like, never sort of got round with it, just because it was like, well, I've got everything scheduled and planned to go out. Like, I've got space to put it out, but it won't flow consistently on the page. And then like sort of at that point, I go into work mode, because it's like, but I've got a strategy and my strategy's in place and I can't deviate from that.
Yeah, no, it does. I think like we kind of go through peaks and troughs with the bulk recording, because like we both got full-time jobs, like, so, you know, human babies, fur babies, like, you know, all of it. So we do sometimes bulk, we sometimes don't. It kind of like goes in and out. But yeah, like, you know, that was the thing with some stuff. Like, it's funny, like we'll do some episodes and we think like, oh, this is gonna be like such a good one, you know. One of the ones that we did, it was like a bonus episode, but it was like the spiciest scenes in Akatar, and we rated them, and we thought it was gonna be like, this is the one, you know, like, and then it went out and it was just like tumbleweed, like and we were like, oh, okay. But then like with the ones we say we don't try hard, but like with the Callie Hart thing, it was just like, we actually didn't have that much bulk recorded. We kind of can fit it in really soon, let's just do it. And like you said, it just was like by chance that it just so happened to be at a time where then it was like really kicking off. And it did really well. And it's just like that sometimes, like, you know, we bulk record, we sometimes do, we sometimes don't. It kind of just depends. But yeah, it's just, I just think as well, like you said, success is different to everyone. Like, I don't know, the fact that we ever had one subscriber, that was all, like, you know.
Yeah.
That was all.
Yeah. I think the key to starting something is to not expect success.
Yeah.
I think the key is to kind of be like, well, it might never go anywhere, but if you enjoy doing it, then
as long as
fine.
you're having a good time and you're enjoying yourself,
it doesn't. Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's the main thing, really. And like, it is hard, and I think this is one question that we wanted to ask you guys, was whether you found that there was any hard parts to it. Because like for us, I think I mentioned it after we recorded your episode, that we were so strict on, you know, we wanted every week, we wanted a structure, we wanted to review a book, we wanted to do an unhinged book, and then book recommendations for like books that we're releasing. And the pressure, because that meant that you know, one of us would have to read two books one week, and then one book and one book and then two, and it was just a lot. As well as trying to read your own TBR and do all of the things that you want to do, it was just a lot of pressure. And it was only recently, maybe like a month and a half
Yeah, I think
ago.
I had a meltdown.
Yeah,
I had a little mentee day, and then it was like, yeah, no, we probably should change how we're doing things, because I was like,
But funnily enough, it took Ellie saying something for me to be like, yeah, no, I'm feeling the same, and George to be like, yeah, no, I'm feeling the same as well. For us then all to come up with something, and now we've changed the format of the podcast, and it is a little bit more relaxed. And I feel like, you know, people won't have seen those episodes yet because we've probably not released any yet, but you know, it is a lot better for us. I think the hardest thing for me personally, is trying to keep on top of it. Like, I feel like I let the side down in terms of I don't promote the podcast probably at all, because I have so much going on, and because I have my own book talk, I forget completely to try and kind of promote it a little bit more. That I really struggle with, like, doing it, and so I do kind of just like leave it to Ellie, because my brain just can't, just for some reason I just really struggle with it, and that's the bit that I find difficult. So is there anything that you guys find difficult about podcasting?
I think in the beginning, definitely, like, deciding what we were going to record, because we didn't know if it was going to be a book review podcast or how we were going to sort of schedule our episodes. So, like, you know, trying to come up with content, because we want to be consistent. We want to release every Wednesday like we have been doing. But sometimes there's just not a common book that we've got that we want to do an episode on, or that we feel passionately enough about to do an episode on. So that's when we started thinking about, like, the author interviews. We did, like, book X, like bookish smash or pass, like things we love in books, things we don't love in books, trying to, like, collaborate with other people, because it's so hard to, like, have a book lined up for every week, and to be on top of it, like you said, to actually have read all these books as well. Like, there's not enough time in my life for me to read a book every week that we can then do on the podcast. Like, sometimes I'll read 3 books in a week, sometimes it'll take me 2 weeks to read one. Like, it totally depends on, like, what my life's going like. So I think finding a structure that worked for us in terms of, like, what our episodes were going to look like every week in the beginning was difficult. Like, I feel like we didn't hit our groove until, like, maybe like 6 or 7 episodes in, I'd say.
Oh gosh, yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think as well, consistency is, I think when I say it's difficult, like, our sort of, like, I say agreement with each other, but we had said that we wanted to do a year of releasing every week, just consistently, and get to a year, and then maybe we'd look at, you know, because I think that's one of the biggest things, like, and again, no, this is, like, no hate into other people, but some podcasts that we've seen, like, they take breaks, and that's totally, like, understandable. Like, life happens, like, you know, and obviously, touch wood, we've been fortunate enough that we've been able to do so many weeks consistently. Obviously, if something, like, you know, happened, then we put it on hold. But I'd say consistency is a really hard thing for us, because we're really determined with it, and I do think, kind of going back to the previous question, that sometimes pays off with followers as well, or, like, people that follow the podcast, is sometimes you've just got to do, like, 8 weeks, and all of a sudden you get this, like, flurry of people, because it's like, we use a podcasting host, right, to do all of our, you know, podcasting through, and they send through, like, statistics and things like that, and they always send through that something like 85% of podcasts, like, stop after the first 3 weeks, because you start doing it with all the best intention in the world, like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and then actually it is, like, this isn't playing my little violin, but it is a lot of work. Like, there's some podcasts that we know that we're connected with that, like, do it on their own. I couldn't imagine, like, doing this on my own. I just couldn't, there's no way. So I can totally understand why people maybe get 2 episodes in and just think, do you know what, like, overwhelmed, I can't keep doing this. But I'm a bit, like, delusional. Like, I just love the chaos, and I love the pressure, and I love but I'm very lucky. Like, I think we as a duo, which I don't really know how, we didn't, like, pick each other, it just happened. I think we counterbalance each other really well. And we're very lucky that we it just naturally happened that the way the workload went. And sometimes Sam will say to me like, oh, you're doing this and I feel really bad and you're doing this, and I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't feel like a job. Like, I enjoy it so much. Like, you know, we've trying to redo like doing the podcast t-shirts and stuff, and Sam's like, oh, you know, you're having to do all this Canva work, and I'm like, yeah, but I just love it. Like, for me, I'm just enjoying it. It doesn't feel like a slog to me. But then, like, for example, when we're trying to put said t-shirts on website, and I'm having to do the margins and they're coming out as negative because of like the pricing, and I have no, whereas like I know that Sam will like eat that up. Like, she loves doing that. And it's all just push and pull. Like, I just think everybody's concept of a full plate is different, if that makes sense. Like you were saying, Nana, like maybe your concept of full plate is just completely different to Ellie and Jordan's. Everybody's like workload is different.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I say to these all the time. I always say to them, like, I feel like I don't do enough. Like, I just feel like I don't compared to them, because they do, like, when you think about, sometimes we release a bloop 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah, so we
on social media
did the 3 posts a day for about, God, how long did I do it for? I did it for about 3 or 4 months. So wow. 3 posts a day for about 3 or 4 months. I did all of the editing for it, and then Jord did all of the captions, because I was like, I'll do the editing, but I am not doing the copywriting. It's like the least favourite part of what I do. And Eleanor was like, yeah, but I've not done anything. I was like, yeah, but you've planned the episodes. Without you planning them and actually getting our asses into gear, there would be nothing for us to put out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I feel like a bit of, I don't know if imposter syndrome is like the right word, but I'm like, it doesn't feel like, it feels like at some point they're going to turn around and go, yeah, we can do this without you, actually. We don't need you, because you don't actually do that much. And like, but it's this whole thing of like being like, you know, when like you're just not confident about yourself, and you're not confident about your abilities, and you're anxious about everything. I'm that classic, like, I am a Cancer. I overthink everything. I'm very emotional. Like, that is just me to a T. And sometimes I'll sit here and I'll just go like, I've just not done anything, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, but
please don't.
No, and I kind of have it, but like maybe in the opposite. So, because I'm very like, when I love something, I love it with my whole heart, passion. It becomes my entire personality, and I will live and die by that. Like, I'm a Leo. Like, I'm so passionate and intense about things. So I always sometimes, because I've never once has this ever felt like a slog, or have I not enjoyed it, or like it's never felt like that. Touch wood, we've been very fortunate. Sam might disagree, but it's never felt like that for me. And so then when I'm saying to Sam, like, we should do this, or how do you think about this? I always worry like, oh my God, she's just going to turn around one day and be like, you need to just step back because this is too much. And I always worry like, because I'm so live and die by it, maybe Sam isn't. But saying that, I say I made her. We literally got matching podcast tattoos last week, so we're bound for life now in terms of that. But that's the thing. I always worry that one day Sam's just going to turn around and go, you're just getting on my tits now. Like, this is just too much. You can piss off, because like, this is fun, but like, you can fuck off.
Yeah, I feel like I get that as well sometimes. Like, I do worry at some point, like, the girls are just going to be like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, it's exactly what you said earlier about, like, most people stop before 8 episodes. Is it most?
Oh, the first 3 episodes, yeah.
Is it 3? Like, the fact that we're on episode 23 right now, like, this is 23. And bear in mind, like, we had 15.5, so technically this is 24.
Yeah, we did like an emergency episode. It was when everything was, when Lee Rivers and Holly Beck had their arcs pirated and put online for people to read, and I was like, and we just sort of sat there in this group chat. And it was like, I feel like it's something that we need to talk about, with the fact that we're all on street teams. Both me and Jord are on Harley's street team. So it's like, you know, when it's an author that you've personally sort of like communicated with, you feel like it's like, no, that's like my friend. Don't do that to
Yeah,
them. Like, that's their like
Yeah.
work. And we did a full episode on it.
So we're like, we have to.
And I was like, I'm so glad that we did that. Because the amount of people that sort of, like, I've had a couple of people message me since being like, I'm glad that you all have said something on the matter instead of just sort of like breezing past it, especially because it's mainly happened to dark romance authors and indie authors, and we are indie author fangirls over here. I don't really think we've spoken about many mainstream authors. We've done a few. So we did like Elsie Silver,
we did,
and Liz Tomford.
Yeah, and what's her name now?
What was the book?
Butcher and
Oh,
Blackbird.
Bryn Weaver.
Oh, Bryn Weaver. She's technically
Like mainstream.
traditionally published
But
author.
every other one that we've done, they've all been indies because they all started from where we are, and they've built that following, and now like you just feel like you're supporting a friend when it comes to talking about their books.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to me. Like, it blows my mind every time. Blows my mind.
Yeah. I don't know if anything else you find difficult, Sam. Do you find my full onness just want to tell me to piss off sometime?
No, if anything, like, even though we were like real life besties before this, saw each other all the time, I think it has made it has strengthened our friendship in ways that I didn't think it would.
Yeah.
Like, we talk all the time anyway. We have group chats with our friends that we talk in all the time, but just seeing each other like once a week and catching up about things that we're passionate about, I just feel like we have the funniest times because it's something that we both love. Some of the stuff that we'll say when we're recording, and we're literally like tears pouring down our face because like and then we can't stop. Like, that's what I love about doing it. Like, I never ever have felt like, oh god, I gotta go over Bethan's now, I gotta sit down and I gotta, like, I've never felt like that because I'm like always like running out the front door. I'm always like waiting outside her house for her to text that she's ready for me, because she's usually putting her daughter to bed and I'm like outside like waiting.
I'm not like a royal person, like wait outside until I summon you in. It's just because I have really noisy dogs that bark really loud to ring the doorbell. But I agree. I think it was your partner, Sam, wasn't it? We were a few weeks into it, and he said to you like, oh, I feel like I've not seen you this like passionate about something in you know what I mean, in a while. Like, we finish it and we both go like, oh, that was so much fun, and like we'll text Sam always texts me that she gets home safe, like from driving back from mine because it's late and dark, and then I'm always like, oh, I'm so proud of us. Like, I was like, that was such a good episode. Like, I'm so proud of us, you know? But yeah, I think that was the whole point of doing it, was just like doing something for ourselves that we didn't care what anybody else thought. And it's really hard to get that mentality. We still get really self-conscious about it all the time. Like, all the time we get self-conscious. But like, because I think, Sam, some of your like mum's friends started listening and we were like
my mum was like, oh, my friend's listening to your podcast. I was like, why?
Please
She's
don't.
like, oh, because she's reading Akatar. I was like, ma'am, you're not allowed. Like, no. You can't come and find me.
Yeah.
I've had my mum's friends being like, oh, I saw your TikTok, and I'm like, don't watch that, please. Don't do that. Please don't. I don't want you to know what I'm
like,
doing.
I don't swear or talk about sex. No, that's not me.
Yeah. I mean, my mum's listened to it, and I told my dad I was doing it, and I said, Dad, so like I'm doing this podcast. He was like, oh, that's really fun. And I was like, but please don't listen to it. And he went, okay. And he was like, why? And I said, like, because, you know, I read smut. And he was like, just do you, like, you know, be proud of what you. I was like, okay, Dad.
Whereas,
but still don't listen
like,
to
it.
My mum was listening. I think my mum was listening to one of our episodes in the car, and my dad got into the car, and my dad was like, this is Ellie talking, and Mum's like, yeah, don't listen to that. It's like, thanks, Mum.
My dad always asks like about like how many followers we have and like about our statistics. My dad's a numbers man, so he always asks me, and when I tell him, he's like, oh, you must be getting paid loads, and I'm like, we've made like 11 pence on TikTok.
He's like, you guys are getting paid? What?
Yeah. He's like, you must be getting paid loads, and I'm like,
No, we lose money
Dad."
every month.
Yeah.
We pay
I'm like,
more.
we're in the negative.
We came back, yeah. Yeah.
That's literally us. We pay to film, and we don't make any.
Oh, yeah,
money.
We pay to give you a podcast.
Yeah, it's coming out of our, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think the family thing, we had a really funny situation. So like we were saying about the bulk recording, we bulk recorded before Sam was going to Vegas a couple of months ago, and then we had audio issues. It was a nightmare. And my dad's in music, he's a musician, so I was like, right, we're desperate. I wonder if his like sound engineer will be able to help us fix this post edit, because we at the time we just really didn't want to have to re-record them. And he was like, yeah, send over your podcast, like send it over. And it was when we did Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and I was like, I cannot send my dad me talking about knotting, like that cannot be a thing, like no. So I just had to send him like a 10-second clip where it was just like nothing. And then he was like asking all the time, like, oh, what's your podcast about? Like, and then when we were very fortunate, it was a while ago, that we got into the charts, and I sent them a screenshot and just forgot, like they didn't even know the name of it. And then I remember his reply was like, interested name. I was like, oh, soz. Yeah. Oh well.
Love that. So before we wrap up, I thought it might be nice to finish with if we each gave a piece of advice to somebody that might want to start a podcast.
Yeah. What advice would you
So,
give
I
to
think-
little baby podcasters out there that have just they've got that dream?
I
The
think
message is sat waiting in their
my-
group chat.
Mine would be to start with low expectations and do it because you love it, not because you want to be successful, is mine. Any other pieces of advice?
I think mine would be not to care what people think, because like we've already said today, reading is so subjective. Like the fact that like we're all such similar personalities, but our reading habits are totally different. Like we're in completely different genres. So if you put something out there and it doesn't get the response that you want, don't let that knock you, because you will find your niche. Like we have stumbled across our followers who have the same mindsets as us, but our followers might not translate to your followers, and your followers might not translate to our followers. So I would just say, like, don't worry about what people are saying, because you're going to find your people eventually.
I love that.
Ooh, it would definitely be, yeah, I think to not let the other things like deter from why you're really doing it, because ultimately, like for us, it was always about putting it out there. And if one person found our podcast who didn't have anybody to talk to about these books and felt like they were sitting down with us every week and talking about a book, that is all we ever aim to achieve. So it was like, don't lose sight of like why you're doing this, like, because it's very easy to get lost in like even the technical things, like the mics, the audios, the quality, like, and it is like to a degree, right, it is important, but ultimately like people are there for you because they enjoy like your company in a weird way. And yeah, don't get lost in the because as wonderful as social media is a wonderful thing, it can very much become like, it's not, I don't think it's always a good reflection of how well you're doing, because everybody's success is so subjective.
Yeah,
It's probably yeah.
that's so true.
But no, I'd
you
just
have
say
anything,
just
Lauren?
enjoy it. Do it because you love it.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying it, sack it off.
Yeah. None of us are getting paid, so why are we
getting
here?
paid.
Like,
Do it 'cause you love it.
As you found, it's not a lucrative business.
no. Yeah, that's another bit of advice. Don't come into this if you're looking for a
No.
lucrative quick cash,
Yeah.
because it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But thank
Yeah,
you so
definitely.
much
Well,
for
yeah.
coming on an episode with us. This has been really fun.
No,
It's been
thanks.
so
Yeah.
fun.
What are your TikTok handles? So what's your pod like social media handles? And do you have your own bookstagrams and book talks? And if you do, shout them out so that people can follow you.
So on TikTok and Instagram, we are at a pod of Smut and Wingspan on both, or a pod of Smut and Wingspan on both. My personal book talk is beth.a.davisbooks. And
I don't know what mine is. I think it's just one Samantha Jean. I don't think I've got like a books handle.
Well, if you aren't sure, just let us know, and Ellie can do some fancy.
I'll figure something
on
out.
the screen with them.
I'll figure something out.
She'll put them on the screen
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
so everybody go and follow them. And obviously, you're on Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on
Apple,
Apple still hates
Pocket
us.
Casts,
yeah.
Amazon, all of it. All of it.
So you can go and find them in those places. And honestly, thank you so much for coming on. We've absolutely loved it. We've had a
It's
great
been
time.
so fun.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And
And
on that note,
sorry, go on.
Ellie,
if you want to listen to us or catch up with any of our other shenanigans, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube. We have our Discord and Fable as well as, and we cannot wait to see you next week. And on that note, peace out.
peace out.